Hello everyone, I'm Aleta Iniguez from the Marine Science Institute, University of the Philippines in Diliman, and I'll be sharing the outcome of a study we did on historical HAB occurrences in the Philippines and Malaysia in the Southeast Asian region on behalf of my co-authors Po Tin Lim and Chupin Lau from the University of Malaya in Malaysia, Stefiana Jepanin from the Department of Fisheries in Sabah, Malaysia, Mitsunori Owataki and Gary Benico from the University of Tokyo, and Rodora Azanza from my institute at the University of the Philippines. So in the Southeast Asian region, Malaysia and the Philippines have a long history of HABs and are the two most affected countries. In this paper, we as best as possible quantitatively assess the HAB patterns and trends in the two countries. We framed our analysis through these three questions. 1. Are HAB events increasing in number? And/or are HAB events increasing in duration, or what we term as severity? Number 2. Are more sites being affected? And third, are we observing more types of HABs? We compiled the best available long-term records per country up to 2017, and most of these are available through the HADAT system. This compiled dataset is a mix of monitoring records from official regulatory agencies, academic research, and media. We divided the HAB events into three general categories: toxic planktonic HABs, benthic HABs, and those associated with fish kills. The main type for toxic planktonic HABs in the region and the two countries is paralytic shellfish poisoning that is caused primarily by Pyridinium bahamense and Alexandrium minutum and Tamiya vanichi. Gymnodinium catenatum has also been observed in some occasions. Other toxic species such as Dinophysis and Pseudonitskia have been observed, but no clear cases of related syndromes have been documented. The longest record for HABs in the Philippines comes from shellfish bulletins issued by the Bureau of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources, which represents paralytic shellfish toxin occurrences beyond the regulatory limit. Note that this record predominantly reflects the occurrence of Pyridinium bahamense in different areas of the country. So evaluating this historical record showed that in the first 2 decades, there was an increase in the frequency and the duration of PST events, but has stabilized or even slightly decreased in recent years. The Philippines, unfortunately, has the highest number of PSP cases in the region, but the numbers have been decreasing due to regular monitoring and increased awareness. Again, based on this record, the occurrence of paralytic shellfish toxins is increasing in terms of the number of sites affected. In the 1980s to 1990s, on average, 2 new sites were affected per year, while from 2008 to 2017, it slowed down a bit. There's 1 new site every 2 years. Long-term data from Malaysia comes from regular monitoring conducted by the Department of Fisheries Sabah. Observations of blooms of toxic species are in gray, while the diamonds represent the occurrence of toxins in seafood and PSP cases. So blooms of Pyridinium occur almost annually at different scales in different districts of Sabah. Nonetheless, no trend of increase has been observed for these blooms. The highest frequency was in the mid-2000s, and there have been low bloom frequencies in recent years. Alexandrium Tamiya vanichi caused PSP cases in 1991, but only in more recent years has the species as well as Alexandrium minutum been observed to bloom again and has also led to more poisoning cases. Interestingly, Pyridinium is confined to the coasts of Sabah and the northern part of Sarawak, Malaysia, Borneo, while the 2 Alexandrium species occur in peninsular Malaysia. Benthic HAB species such as Gambierdiscus toxicus, Gambierdiscus ballechi, and Porocentrum lima have been identified in the two countries. The incidence, though, of ciguatera fish poisoning has been quite low compared to other countries. In Malaysia, there are only 3 reports for CFP, 2 in 2010 and 1 in 2017. All 3 were due to snapper species and resulted in 32 individuals affected. For the Philippines, only 4 events for CFP have been fully confirmed from the period of 1989 to 2017. These were due to barracuda in 2001 in Metro Manila, 2006 in Iloilo City in the Central Philippines, and 2014 in Zamboanga in the Southern Philippines. There were also cases in 2010 here in the Central Philippines due to a snapper species. There have been several other suspected cases of CFP, leading to 123 confirmed and 274 suspected cases, or number of people affected. Unfortunately, there's still limited information on the occurrence of benthic HABs and CFP cases. There is also limited capacity for testing. Fish kill events associated with HAB species in both countries have caused significant negative impacts on aquaculture and in the wild. These events are sporadic in some areas and an almost yearly occurrence in others. These fish kills have been attributed to a variety of HAB species. In the Philippines, most fish kills occur in the Bolinao-Anda area that's northwest of the country. This is a site of intensive and extensive milkfish farms. So examples of HAB species associated with these fish kills here are Porocentrum cordatum, diatoms, Chatonella subsalsa, and recently the naked dinoflagellate Takayama. In Malaysia, fish kill events are attributed to 5 HAB species: Porocentrum cordatum, Margalifidinium polycricoides, Noctiluca scintillans, Carlodinium australe, and Chatonella. There is still limited information on the harmful algae associated with fish kill events in the region. Recent events highlight the role of the rhapidophyte Chatonella and unarmored Carinaceae like Carlodinium and Takayama that tend to be more difficult to detect. So let's go back to our questions for this analysis and summarize our observations. So for the first one, yes, paralytic shellfish toxin events in the Philippines increased in the 80s to early 2000s, but has stabilized or decreased in terms of frequency and duration in recent years. But for Malaysia, there was a peak in 2004, but there is no observed increase in frequency. For both countries, there was an expansion of sites being affected by toxic blooms. In the Philippines, Spironidium has continued to expand in other sites, and Alexandrium and Gymnodinium were observed in the 2000s. In Malaysia, Alexandrium blooms and poisonings occurred more recently in new sites. So these trends could be due to introduction of toxic species to new sites through mariculture activities or other transport mechanisms, or they could have already been there and triggered through eutrophication. The initial increase in the Philippines could be due to increased awareness and monitoring as well. So these patterns do need to be further investigated to determine the causative factors. For both Malaysia and Philippines, the number of HAB species blooming and causing problems has increased over the years. New toxic species have come in and caused paralytic shellfish poisonings. Fish kills associated with different HAB species occur almost yearly. CFP cases do occur, though there is limited information. Overall, there is an urgent need for systematic, standardized, and long-term observations of the phytoplankton, attendant environmental conditions, and the HAB impacts. This goes not only for the Philippines and Malaysia, but the region in general. So thank you to those who've watched this. Thank you to Bifar and Gustav for the inputs into the analysis. Thank you to our funding and agencies and other support from the Malaysian Ministry of Higher Education, the Malaysian Ministry of Energy, Science, Technology, Environment and Climate Change, the Philippine Department of Science and Technology, Philippine Council for Agriculture, Aquatic, and Natural Resources Research and Development, and the IOC of UNESCO.